2 of the Empower Healing Circle podcast. To our new listeners, welcome to our corner of the internet. And for those who aren't new but true, thanks for listening and welcome back. I am Lauren Zakia.
I'm Jezere.
And I'm Nicole.
We are faculty and fellows at Empower Institute, a center for community healing and optimal living. And this season, we will be discussing healing, how we define it, its importance, and the various intersections. So circle up. It's time to heal, y'all.
We have a special guest joining us today, Bertini. She is going to start us off by reading the quote.
One of the marvelous things about community is that it enables us to welcome and help people in a way we couldn't as individuals. When we pull our strength and share the work and responsibility, we can welcome many people, even those in deep distress. We can welcome many people, even those in deep distress, and perhaps help them find self-confidence and inner healing. Jean Vanier, Community and Growth.
So we wanted to discuss community healing. We felt that this topic would be perfect with everything that's going on around us. Communities are banding together, making changes, and starting revolutions. And part of a revolution is healing. So with healing being our focus today, what does community healing, or how does community healing make the community stronger?
What comes to mind for me is just, I think it's that, not even so much of an after the fact, but it's actually the process that the community goes through, the process of healing, and what that looks like. I always like to use the metaphor of when you have like a messy room or messy closet. And so the process of even organizing that, right, is actually you have to take a look at each piece, pull it out to see what all is there, and then going back and organize to see what all is necessary, what we need to discard, what we need to keep. And so it's that process that you end up going through with other community members that actually, the journey brings people together. Because it can be ugly, it can be pretty, it's going to be all those, everything. Mm-hmm. And sometimes even nothing at all. It can feel numbing. You're going to go through it all. And when you go through that with other people and y'all there, the people that are with you on the end of that, it's something about that journey of healing.
I think that community healing makes the community stronger because the community reminds us of who we are. So often in life, the distresses and the traumas that people experience, it chips away at who they believe themselves to be. And so they may absorb some of that negativity, some of that oppression, and they start to believe what the opposition has said about themselves. So the community is the people that gather around to remind us of who we are, because they have seen the magnificent, brilliant, creative beings that we were before trauma may have interrupted or created some dis-ease. So the community is those who put the mirror up to us so that we can really see our authentic and true self.
I would say the healing of a community makes it stronger just by thinking of that same old phrase we've heard, like, we're better together, or, divided we fall, and what is it? Together we stand, divided we fall. Something to that effect. And as trite as it may sound, I feel like a strong community that's together knows what it needs and what is going to destroy it. And once those two have met and you have those people around you who also see those things, you go through it and you become better on the other side of it.
So with that said, what does healing within the community look like? What can it look like?
I think it's gonna look ugly for moments in time. It might not even be ugly at the beginning, but that's because the healing process is not peaches and cream. You do have to work to get to that place, and dealing with a community and so many different personalities and outlooks. It's gonna be some work, but it looks like conversations. It looks like tough times. It looks like joy and exuberance sprinkle all throughout this process.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I definitely think that we have to not like make healing this like pretty, like, let's go relax type vision. I think to your point, Desiree, it really is difficult, and we have to be willing to let things die. We have to be willing to bring destruction to the things that we have inherited that have created harm intercommunally. We have to be willing to face that. Like that's the healing journey. Is actually taking the time to look and address all of our brokenness and be committed to working through it collectively. I think oftentimes we think of healing as this end goal. Like, well, once I'm healed, my work is done. But there are so many layers to our healing that this is a ongoing aspect of what it means to be human and to live. Because we got that much stuff that we got to unpack.
Yeah, I mean, healing is similar to a rebirth. Brittany mentioned death is a part of it. A fetus inside the womb, once it is born, they experience a death in that birth. It's death to the time in which they spent in the womb. And so on this birthing bed, pool, table, however women give birth, women are cussing and literally shitting on the table. So it's not this pretty, fragrant, moment. It's painful. It is exhausting. Like, all of these things are happening while life is being born. Something beautiful is coming into a new essence, and with that change, with that death, can be some messiness.
I think to make it more specific for those who are listening in, when I say, we got to destruct some stuff, I'm talking about the way misogyny shows up in our community.
Yeah.
And the ways that we allow sexism and violence towards women be a norm. I'm talking about us addressing our homophobia and transphobia and no longer allowing this divisiveness to cloak itself in holiness. Because you claim to believe in family, then my expression should not be an assault to your beliefs. Like, that's the kind of shit we got to work through.
Yeah.
We got to work through what we do with capitalism and classism and the ways in which we let our status or our wealth or our celebrity separate us from those who are still struggling. So it's just, and I'm just talking about Black folks. I'm not even talking about what it means to be in relationship across racial lines and across geographical boundaries. I think we have to be able to address the ways in which our stores, our places of exploitation of those in other countries. How whole economies are built around our consumerism. Like, it's a lot of shit that we gotta unpack.
No, I think those are very good points and a way to draw it out. And I would even say, starting all of this conversation prompted me to think, well, do people know that we're in a community? Because if you don't recognize that you're in one, then you are always moving for self. You know, just a very individualistic experience. And you could be in a whole family and not be in a community.
Absolutely.
So I think a big part of it, of beginning healing, is recognizing that you are a part of a community. Whether you like that community or not, that is where you are. And I think a good part of healing it is to pull out all of those thorns that you mentioned, Brutini. Like knowing that you're a part of something larger than yourself, and then seeing that these people are here with you. I mean, if you don't like it, let's all talk about it and change it. If it's killing one of us or some of us, we need to address it. Yeah.
I posted this Octavia Butler quote on one of my Instagram pages that says, "Drowning people sometimes die trying to fight their rescuers." That's about community for me, right? Like, either we gonna heal this shit or we going down together. We both gonna be dead. Cause you trying to kill me and I'm trying to save you. But you too caught up in whatever you have been told about me to make you not see that we are community is literally killing us.
Defining community for that community, because what we think is community might not be that at all. That definition might not fit what we are, who we trying to be. So dismantling what we've been told community is and showing people what community actually is part of that healing.
You know, community is also the people who knew you when. And so it's around accountability. But, you know, there are a lot of people when they attain some status, and we've probably all experienced someone we've been in a relationship with, they achieve some goal and they start to smell themselves or they start to change who they once were. And, you know, the community will be like, I remember when you was around here with your snot nose self and this and that, you know, and it's a reminder of, you know, no matter how far you may climb, you still are rooted with people. You still have roots within community, that you have built these relationships with people who have cared for you, who have nurtured you, and without them, you would not be in the place that you are. So, you know, it's to help us not to think more highly of ourselves or to forget that just as one was depending on community to grow, the community is also dependent on this individual who has now experienced a different way or a different emergence of the sort.
I think recognizing that they're roots and not steps on a ladder out of whatever you think this is.
Yeah. And that's what sometimes happens, that people use others as steps, you know, stepping stones. I'm gonna step on you, over you to get here, versus the roots that are anchoring you in your true essence of humanity.
You know, that makes me think of, because that's exactly what so many of these other ethnicities did when they first ended up in this land, is they had to start to, like, so the Irish came and they were the bottom, and then the Italians, all this other stuff. And I'm just thinking about it, and everybody had to end up stepping on others, and that was the way that you were going to try to buy your way into whiteness, right? And so I think a lot of times what we have here is we got some black folks that are trying to buy their way, earn their way into whiteness by stepping on those. But the truth is, you look around and it's just you and your kinfolk that's left at the bottom. And I feel like a lot of times that's what happens when I think about other things like Pertini spoke to in terms of the misogyny and a whole bunch of other things. There's so many things that we've adopted from Eurocentrism, from white supremacy. So much, and have adopted it so deep and so well that we don't even recognize that it's actually Eurocentric values.
Right.
And so we start claiming them to be our own. We start claiming them to be our religion, our spirituality even. And I'm just like, now you're having so much trouble that you can't even separate yourself from whiteness.
Absolutely.
And you actually are claiming it, saying this is black. And if you expressing yourself doing it differently over here, then you're anti-black. When really, people living in their fullness are actually very, very pro-black. It's actually anti-whiteness to do that.
It is. It was something you said at the beginning of yours about white people. It was something you said. It was like at the very beginning. I cannot remember what it was, but I wanted to connect it to what E was saying. All right. Well, continue. If it comes to me, I'll let y'all know.
I think at this point, like, we've pulled out all of these ills and of where we exist and dismantling it and what we need. I think it's a good place to ask the question: how do we recognize when the community is healed?
So I've been thinking about this a lot. Because as someone who believes in liberation, I believe that we get there when the least of us is free. And I had to really think about why that is. But ultimately, the least of us are usually those who have been shunned and cast away, those who have been told that they don't belong, that there is no place for them. So if they get free, it represents our ability to hold complexity, our ability to honor people's authentic expressions of themselves, whatever they may be. Only if we can manage to free the least of us. I think that's what it looks like when a community is healed. It's not a utopia, but it is an expansiveness of spirit that allows us to say we are willing to interrogate our differences, whether it's an opinion, an expression, whatever, belief. And we are committed to honoring each and every one of us as fully human. No ifs and buts.
Wow. When, as you were talking, it hit me that you got some of us out here that are trying to free the black community and free us, and using tactics of the oppressor. And just so much is wrapped like just into that. Like it's like, of course, but then just to greatly to what level? And I know a lot of that will be over a whole bunch of, like, some folks maybe here is listening, but like just thinking in all the ways and all the tactics, and as far as especially like even trying to do ethnic cleansing within your ethnicity, you know. Wow. That's part of the stuff when you talk about death being connected to healing. We have to make die are the characteristics that we've adopted from Massa.
Precisely.
So how will we recognize when the community is healed? For me, I don't know. I was needing to, like, as you posed that question, Desiree, I was needing for me to take even a half step, not a whole step, but a half step back. Like, how do we recognize when the community is healing or is in process of healing? And I was like, I feel like, because I was like, I don't know. I don't know what healed looks like.
I mean, and for the community to be healed, it's not just like once this specific thing occurs, then your process is over. That healing is a part of growing, and growing is the movement. It's the acceleration. It is the understanding. I mean, all of these things of progression. And as you progress, you become stronger, or you become wider. To be able to contain more. So it's a constant movement. So the community is healed when there's constant movement. That one thing is not just static or in this stasis position where it cannot move, because being not being able to move is a form of oppression.
Right.
Because I need the freedom and flexibility to go about. So the community is healed when the community keeps moving and growing.
I agree. I think these are all the perfect points. We don't know. It is a process. I appreciate you pulling out that tense of it being past and done, because it's not. And I don't know if it might ever will get to that point, but I think it's okay to know that and to recognize that, and recognize that my healing journey will look different than my partner's healing journey, from my neighbor's healing journey. But as long as we are all committed to the journey of making it happen, of healing and growing and changing, I think we are really getting somewhere, and knowing that there's strength in admitting when there's an issue and trying to course correct.
Yeah. What I talked about was a disposition, right? So it's not a state, but it is a way in which we carry ourselves. I think ultimately a lot of this is about spirit work, not about the material stuff that we have to combat. But we do have to move it out of the way to get to the spirit.
So we pose these same questions to you all. How does community healing make the community stronger? What does healing within the community look like? And how will we recognize when the community is healed or healing?
So thank you so much for joining us. We would love to hear your thoughts, questions, responses to our discussion questions. Definitely please interact with us on Facebook and Instagram using @Empower Institute. That's INPOWERINSTITUTE. Be sure to also visit our website to see all that Empower has to offer at www.empowerinstitute.com. All right, we'll catch you later.